Have you ever wondered what true happiness looks like in your later years? Is it finding a new companion to share your life with, or is it the peace and freedom of living independently, in tune with your desires? As we age, we inevitably find ourselves grappling with deeper questions about life, happiness, relationships, and self-fulfillment. The once straightforward answers now seem far more complicated. But what if the truth is not as simple as we often think? In this video, we're going to explore the many different ways people in their golden years are discovering joy, freedom, and peace. You'll meet three inspiring individuals, Evelyn, Margaret, and Susan, who have each carved their unique paths to finding happiness. These women's stories reflect the universal questions we all ask as we grow older. What brings us true happiness? Is it the companionship of others, or is it the freedom to live life according to our values, desires, and pace? Stick with us until the end to learn the powerful lessons these women have uncovered. Their journeys may just shift the way you view your later years. You'll hear about the choices they made that led them to true contentment, the challenges they faced along the way, and how they learned to overcome the struggles of living in relationships that didn't align with their deepest needs. Moreover, we'll share 5 key lessons for living a fulfilling and peaceful life as you grow older. Insights you can apply right now to improve your own well-being and approach to aging. This is your chance to reconsider what happiness means in your life and how you can live authentically in your later years. Stay tuned to the end to uncover the wisdom that could transform your perspective and make all the difference in your journey. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to me, and if you found this video valuable, help me continue sharing these insights by liking and sharing it with others. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by commenting 1. If you feel I could improve in any way, please comment 0 and share your thoughts on how I can create even better content for you. Now, let's get started. Mie Sakurai's story. Evelyn Harper's journey is one of quiet self-discovery, a realization that speaks deeply to the heart of what it means to live authentically, especially as we age. At 65, Evelyn resides in a charming, peaceful cottage nestled in the rolling hills of New England. It's a place where time seems to move slower, and every season brings a new wave of beauty and reflection. For much of her life, Evelyn was convinced that as she grew older, the answer to happiness was companionship. Someone to share the joys of life with, someone to stand by her side through the quiet evenings and endless conversations. She, like so many others, believed that the key to fulfillment in the later years was simply not to be alone. But over time, and through a series of life-altering experiences, Evelyn's perspective began to shift. What she discovered, however, was not just a change in thought, but a profound liberation that came with embracing solitude. It wasn't about seeking out new relationships or trying to live up to anyone else's expectations of what her life should look like. It was about honoring her own heart, choosing the freedom and peace that could only be found by truly listening to herself. Evelyn's story is one of quiet strength. After her husband passed away more than a decade ago, she made her home in that cottage, a refuge that had once been shared by the two of them, but which now became her sanctuary. At first, she thought companionship would fill the empty spaces left behind. Perhaps just having someone there, to share life's mundane moments and celebrations, would be enough. She had always believed that companionship brought happiness. But as the years passed, Evelyn began to realize that the desire for companionship often came with subtle strings attached. Expectations that, when unmet, left her feeling burdened rather than uplifted. She began to see that the longing for closeness could bring its weight. She understood that the reality of living with someone, particularly as you age, could sometimes be more demanding than fulfilling. The responsibilities and compromises that come with cohabitation, while well-intentioned, could quickly eclipse the peace she had cultivated on her own. She didn't want the complexity of another's needs to overshadow her own quiet, peaceful existence. One crisp autumn afternoon, the kind of day when the world feels just on the edge of stillness, Evelyn sat on her porch with her best friend, Caroline Mitchell. They were sipping tea, wrapped in blankets, savoring the crisp autumn air. The trees surrounding the cottage shimmered in golds and reds, and the hum of distant birds added a soft soundtrack to their afternoon. With a mischievous glint in her eye, Caroline, ever the romantic, leaned forward. "You know, Evelyn," she began, her voice light with excitement, "I've started seeing someone. His name is Arthur. He's 70, just like me. And I think having someone by your side does bring a bit of color to life." Her words were hopeful, her tone filled with that spark of new love. "Why don't you think about finding someone? A new relationship could make things brighter." Evelyn paused, her smile warm but contemplative, as she looked out over the quiet beauty of the hills. "I think everyone's journey is different, Caroline. For me, having good friends is enough. When you live with someone, there are always expectations, responsibilities that can take away your freedom and peace." Her voice, calm yet firm, carried a wisdom that only years of experience can bring. She wasn't dismissing the joy Caroline had found. She was simply choosing to honor her truth. But life has a way of teaching us lessons, often when we least expect them. A few months later, Caroline came to Evelyn's porch again, but this time, her shoulders were slumped. The spark in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by a deep, tired sigh. She spoke slowly, with a vulnerability that Evelyn recognized immediately. "I thought that living with someone would make everything easier, but sometimes his presence feels more like a weight than a blessing. There are days when I long for the kind of peace you have." Caroline's words echoed through the silence between them, a soft admission that even the most well-meaning companionship can become an unexpected burden. Around Evelyn, many of her friends had started new relationships. There were community dances and gatherings in the town square where seniors were finding each other, forming bonds that many assumed would carry them into their twilight years. Yet, Evelyn stayed resolute. Despite the teasing and good-natured nudges from her friends, who urged her to meet someone new, she remained grounded in her belief. Happiness, she would say, doesn't come from living with someone or always having someone by your side. The most important thing is that your heart feels at peace. And her heart did feel at peace. There was a quiet wisdom in the way Evelyn spoke, an inner light that came from knowing her mind. She had found a life for herself that was rich with meaning, without the need to fulfill any external expectations of what a successful later life should look like. She had come to realize that peace and freedom aren't found in the companionship of others, but in the journey of living life authentically, listening to her own needs, and choosing a path that resonated with her heart, unburdened by the weight of society's expectations. In a world that constantly pressures people to seek external validation, Evelyn's story serves as a beautiful reminder that true happiness doesn't always come from being surrounded by others. Sometimes, it comes from the quiet moments of solitude where you can simply be yourself, where you can rest in your presence and find contentment in the life you've carved out on your terms. It's a lesson that only time and experience can teach, and Evelyn had learned it well. Sachiko Tanaka's story. Margaret Lawson's journey through the complexities of relationships and the deep search for happiness in her later years is a tale that resonates with so many who feel the quiet pull of loneliness as they age. At 67 years old, Margaret, a woman of grace and quiet strength, had spent the majority of her life in a serene town nestled in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. After a long and rewarding career working for the local government, she now found herself living alone in a charming cottage surrounded by lush gardens, a place that echoed with the peaceful solitude she had come to embrace. Though her days were now filled with simple pleasures, tending to her garden, reading books that transported her to other worlds, and taking strolls through the nearby woods, Margaret, like so many others, once believed that true fulfillment in the later years could only come from the companionship of a partner. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But life, as it often does, has a way of challenging our preconceived notions. Margaret's perspective began to shift after a life-changing event forced her to rethink her long-held beliefs. She realized that while society often paints old age as a time of inevitable loneliness, the truth is that the deepest form of fulfillment comes not from a partner, but from the connection we forge with ourselves and our own needs. It was a painful realization, one that left her questioning her assumptions and exploring the notion that happiness is something far more complex than simply having someone beside you. It was after her retirement that Margaret, encouraged by a close friend, decided to attend a social event for seniors at the community center. The event was a well-intentioned attempt to bring people together, to stave off the isolating effects of age. There, she met Thomas Harris, a 70-year-old man whose warm smile and quick wit immediately drew her in. Thomas had a charm that was hard to resist. They shared common interests: gardening, classic literature, and the joys of outdoor activities. And before long, their budding friendship flourished into something more. They spent afternoons together, enjoying casual meals, lively conversations, and the simple pleasure of each other's company. It was all so easy, so comfortable, and for the first time in years, Margaret thought she had found the companionship she had been missing. Then came Thomas's suggestion, perhaps more of an idea than a request, that they move in together. The prospect of living together seemed like the answer to all of Margaret's fears of isolation. She thought that maybe, just maybe, this was the step that would provide her with the connection she longed for, and she agreed to the idea with a heart full of hope. At first, the arrangement seemed idyllic. Thomas was attentive, thoughtful, and willing to help with household chores. They would take long drives through the countryside, explore the beauty of nature together, and tend to their shared garden. Margaret felt fulfilled, content even, and for a while, it seemed like her loneliness had been cured. But as time passed, a shift began to occur, subtle at first, but impossible to ignore as it grew more pronounced. What had once been Thomas's gentle attentiveness started to feel more like control. He became hypercritical of everything, from the way Margaret cooked dinner to the way she cleaned. At first, Margaret told herself it was his way of helping, but soon enough, the tone of his voice when he pointed out minor flaws began to feel like a constant barrage of criticism. What once seemed like care now felt suffocating, and the peaceful existence she had cherished was starting to crumble. The harmony they once shared became overshadowed by stress, anxiety, and a growing sense of resentment. But the changes didn't stop there. Thomas's possessiveness began to emerge. Whenever Margaret made plans with her friends, he would accuse her of abandoning him, his words tinged with bitterness and guilt. "You go out and have fun, and here I am alone," he would say. His comments planted a seed of doubt in Margaret's mind. She found herself constantly walking on eggshells, trying to balance his needs with her own. Slowly but surely, she began to limit her time spent with friends, avoiding plans that might upset the fragile peace at home. What had once been a life of joyful independence began to feel like a series of compromises, where her desires and freedom were gradually being sacrificed just to maintain harmony with someone who no longer brought her joy. The breaking point came one evening after yet another tense conversation. Margaret could no longer ignore the internal struggle, the gnawing sense that she had lost herself in an attempt to make someone else happy. She realized that her life was no longer her own. In a moment of clarity, she made the difficult decision to speak her truth. She told Thomas that she needed space, that their living arrangement was no longer fulfilling, and that she longed to regain the independence and peace she had once treasured. Thomas was blindsided, and at first, he couldn't accept her decision. His hurt was palpable, but Margaret's resolve was unshakable. After a tearful and difficult conversation, they agreed to part ways. Months later, Margaret returned to her cottage, the sanctuary of her solitude. The peace she had longed for, the calm she had taken for granted, was hers again. She found joy in the quiet, in the freedom of choosing her path without the weight of someone else's expectations. Reflecting on the experience, she shared with a deep, almost wistful sigh, "Being with someone doesn't always bring happiness. What's truly important in old age is having a life that values your peace and freedom. I've learned that you can't sacrifice your well-being just to avoid loneliness." Margaret's story is a poignant reminder that sometimes, the search for companionship in later life can come with unforeseen sacrifices. It's a powerful testament to the importance of self-care, personal freedom, and the courage to stand firm in one's truth, even when it means walking away from a relationship that once seemed to offer everything. In the end, Margaret discovered that true happiness isn't found in the presence of someone else, but in the quiet confidence of knowing who you are, and in the peace of embracing the life you have chosen for yourself. Ayako Fuji's story. Susan Carter, a 64-year-old retired high school teacher, had spent the majority of her life savoring the quiet and gentle rhythm of solitude. Living in her cozy little apartment nestled in the serene suburbs of Portland, Oregon, Susan had carved out a life filled with passion for pottery and long afternoons spent lost in the pages of her favorite books. She had always been fiercely independent, content with her own company, but as the years gently advanced, a subtle longing began to grow within her heart. It was a quiet yearning, one she hadn't expected to feel at this stage in her life, but the thought of sharing her later years with someone by her side became more and more appealing. In a brave and unexpected move, she decided to take a step she never thought she'd make, attending a matchmaking event designed for seniors. It was there that she met Tetsuya Murakami, a 68-year-old widower whose gentle presence instantly resonated with her. Tetsuya was a man of many layers, an avid golfer, a lover of art, and above all, a captivating conversationalist. His warmth and kindness sparked an instant connection, and Susan found herself swept up in the comfort of his company. For a while, it was perfect. Their time together was filled with small joys, afternoons at the movies, laughter over cooking new recipes, and the shared excitement of discovering new things together. It felt like a dream come true, a beautiful second chance at companionship in the golden years. But as the weeks passed, something began to shift in the air. Tetsuya, despite his outward charm and affection, started to speak more and more about his late wife. His words, though tinged with sadness, seemed to cling to the past in ways that felt uncomfortable for Susan. He often expressed how much he missed the companionship they had shared, subtly yearning for that same connection with her. At first, Susan tried to overlook it, understanding that grief was a process, a journey that each person navigated in their way. But as time wore on, she could no longer ignore the growing sense of emotional weight he placed on her shoulders. It was as though, without meaning to, he began to expect her to step into the role of his late wife, to be everything she was and more. The requests began to mount. Tetsuya started asking Susan to contribute more than just her time and love. He wanted her to help with household expenses, to cover the costs of his beloved golf equipment, and to foot the bill for their frequent outings to expensive restaurants. At first, Susan tried to convince herself that this was a simple sign of affection, that helping him was a way of showing love and support. But with every request, the balance of their relationship began to feel more and more skewed. What had once felt like an equal partnership now felt like an emotional and financial burden she wasn't prepared to carry. The relationship, which had begun with such promise, had slowly evolved into a dynamic that drained her rather than uplifted her. Eventually, Susan reached a breaking point. One afternoon, with a heavy heart but a steady mind, she sat down with Tetsuya and gently voiced her concerns. She explained that while she cared for him deeply, their relationship could no longer continue in this way. She needed more than just constant demands for financial support and the weight of emotional dependency. Tetsuya, visibly taken aback, dismissed her concerns with a wave of his hand, insisting that in any healthy relationship, partners should support each other in every way possible. His words, meant to soothe, only deepened the gap between them. Susan's resolve hardened, and after much soul-searching, she made the heart-wrenching decision to end their relationship. Even with love, she said, her voice calm yet heavy with sorrow, if it becomes a burden, it's pointless. Her words, simple but profound, marked the end of a chapter that had begun with such hopeful potential but had slowly worn down her spirit. With a deep breath, she walked away from what was once a beautiful dream but had turned into a painful reality. She wasn't walking away from love itself, but from a love that had begun to weigh her down. In the aftermath, Susan returned to the quiet independence she had once cherished. She threw herself back into her pottery, reconnecting with friends and rediscovering the simple joys of being alone. She found peace in solitude, realizing that it wasn't loneliness she had been seeking, but the freedom to live life on her own. In later life, she reflected, being with someone can bring happiness, but not at the cost of your happiness. I've chosen to live my life my way. It was a bittersweet decision, but in the end, it was the right one. Susan had learned that while companionship could be beautiful, the most important relationship was the one she had with herself. Part 2. 5 important lessons for living happily in later life. Lesson 1. Be honest with your heart. No matter how old you are, the most precious gift you can give yourself is to listen to the whispers of your heart. It's easy to become lost in the noise of society's expectations or the judgments of others, but the later years of life offer you a rare opportunity, a chance to truly set yourself free. For so many years, we've been taught to conform, to follow the rules of what we're supposed to be doing. But what if you could cast off those constraints and embrace your truest self? You deserve it. The second half of life is an incredible, often underappreciated treasure. A time to reflect, to embrace your deepest desires, and to take the path that feels right for you, not for anyone else. Imagine finally living without the burden of what you should do or be, and instead allowing your heart to guide you toward the life you've always dreamed of. Never let anyone's opinions, fears, or judgments stand in the way of your authentic joy. Now is your time to live fully, unapologetically, and with a heart that beats only for what truly matters to you. Lesson 2. Value connections with others. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Relationships are the lifeblood of a fulfilling, meaningful life, no matter your age. As we grow older, these connections only become more important. Think about it. What would life be without the loving embrace of family, the comfort of friends who've been by your side for years, or the simple joy of being a part of your community? The connections we form throughout life are what give us purpose, warmth, and a reason to keep going. It's easy to fear loneliness as we age, but I urge you to reach out. It doesn't take grand gestures. Sometimes, a brief conversation with a stranger or a simple smile can spark a connection that lifts you. And in return, that tiny act of kindness can mean the world to someone else. The power of human connection is something we should never underestimate. It's a source of joy, a balm for the soul, and a comfort in times of trial. Don't let the fear of being alone hold you back from sharing your warmth with others. Strengthen those bonds, because, in the end, the relationships you cultivate are what truly carry you through life's challenges. Lesson 3. Never forget gratitude. In the whirlwind of everyday life, it's easy to overlook the simple things that matter. Things that, when we stop and think about them, are true blessings. As we age, it's more crucial than ever to pause, breathe, and appreciate the beauty of what we have. Think about the roof over your head, the air you breathe, the health you still have, and the people who love you. These are not small things, they are gifts. We often take them for granted, but when you open your heart to gratitude, everything shifts. Each day holds its precious gifts, no matter how small they might seem at first glance. So take a moment, every day, to reflect on what you're grateful for. Gratitude isn't just a nice feeling. It's a magnet for more happiness, more peace, and more love. When you make gratitude a part of your daily life, it's as if you've invited an abundance of positivity to flood your heart and home. The more you give thanks, the more you find yourself surrounded by blessings. Lesson 4. Keep learning. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that once you've retired, the need to learn new things fades away. But the truth is, life is a never-ending opportunity for growth. Whether you're trying a new hobby, diving into books that ignite your curiosity, or even learning a language you've always wanted to speak, the possibilities are endless. The joy of learning keeps your mind fresh and engaged, and it keeps your spirit young. Life after retirement doesn't have to be stagnant or dull. It can be a time of vibrant exploration and discovery. Picture yourself exploring new places, soaking up knowledge, and feeding your soul with the excitement of learning something new every day. That sense of growth, of curiosity, is what keeps you involved, it keeps you passionate, and it ensures that every day holds the potential for something new and exciting. As long as you keep learning, life stays full of surprises, and no matter how many years you've lived, there's always something to discover. Lesson 5. Live in the present. It's so easy to get lost in the shadows of what's behind us, the mistakes, regrets, or missed opportunities, or to anxiously anticipate the uncertainties that lie ahead. But the truth is, none of that matters. The only moment we truly have is right now. The present is a gift, and it's so easy to forget that when we're caught up in the whirlwind of life's distractions. This is your time. The only thing that matters is today, this very moment. So stop, breathe, and let yourself be in it. Whether you're taking a slow walk in nature, savoring a cup of coffee, or simply sitting in stillness, let your heart appreciate the beauty of now. Life is too precious to waste dwelling on the past or fearing the future. Every single day, each moment is an opportunity to feel joy, to find peace, to experience wonder. Fill your heart with the simple pleasures of life, the laughter of a loved one, the warmth of the sun on your face, the sound of your favorite song. When you embrace the present, you open yourself up to a world of contentment and happiness that can't be found anywhere else. As we wrap up today's video, I want to take a moment to reflect on the lessons we've discussed. These powerful teachings, honesty with your heart, valuing connections, embracing gratitude, continuing to learn, and living in the present, are all keys to living a happy, fulfilling life as we age. The beauty of life is that it's never too late to start making changes, and every moment is an opportunity to create the life you truly deserve. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you've learned from today's video that resonates with you? What's one lesson you'll start bringing into your own life? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to know. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue to bring you more inspiring content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.